Good afternoon, dear moderator, dear key speaker, all presenters and participants. Welcome to this webinar, the webinar of gender dimension in transboundary water management, TG1. And our today's moderator is Dr. Florence Grace Adongo. She is Director for Water Resource Management in the Ministry of Water and Environment, Uganda. She has experience in water and environment resource management at various levels for over 30 years. And also she is serving as Nile and NELTAC representing her country, Uganda. Now I will leave the session for her moderations. Dr. Florence, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Adanich. Good afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Our keynote speakers and the panelists who are here and presenters, together with the rapporteurs and the Secretariat of the Nile Basin Development Forum. I wish to welcome all of you to this very interesting webinar, which is going to address issues on gender dimensions in transboundary water management. I want to appreciate your time, and we have about 100 minutes to make presentations and also have discussions. We are happy to have our keynote speaker, Mr. Sefa Gudino Muleta, the Regional Social and Environment Officer from ENTRO. Ladies and gentlemen, gender dimension is a transboundary water management is very, very important because it addresses the unique roles, needs, and perspectives of both women and men. Indeed, gender equality, as you might know, is one of the goals in the Sustainable Development Goals. It's number 5, and it is believed that is a precondition for realizing other goals. One time, Kofi Annan says, gender equality is more than a goal itself. It's a precondition for meeting the challenge of reducing poverty, promoting sustainable development, and building good governance. So this is in line with our the 7th Nile Basin Development Forum theme, which is about deepening Nile cooperation and accelerating the achievement of SDGs in a changing climate. So I think this webinar is very relevant, and we are excited to hear from our experts with their experiences on the ground in different angles, so that we are able to discover the role of women, addressing the gender inequalities, and also how to mainstream the gender dimensions in transboundary water management. So without wasting time, we have a program that we are going to look at. We have our keynote speaker that will give welcome remarks and introduction. Then we shall move straight to presentations. Each presenter is given 10 minutes, and we want to make sure that you use the time you are given very efficiently, because online webinars, one of the disciplines is to make sure we keep time. After the presentations, we shall move to question and answer, and then move into panel discussions. So with that, I want once again to welcome you and welcome our keynote speaker, who is Mr. Sefa Gudino, the Regional Social and Environment Officer at ENTRO, as I've told you, and also a Gender Focal Point Officer at ENTRO in Addis Ababa. The Director, Biosafety and Invasive Alien Species Regulation. He is also has worked at the Directorate of Environment, Forest and Climate Change Commission, and as Jeff Biodiversity Project Coordinator. He's also a National Focal Point Officer for the Cartagena Protocol on Biosafety in the Ministry of Environment, Climate Change in Ethiopia. Because of time, I will not go through, but he's a man of a wealth of experience in different areas and has a master's in environmental science from Wageningen University, the Netherlands. And we are very happy because he's the only man, according to my list, who is going to give us the keynote speech in this area and make a welcome remarks to open up the floor for the webinar presentations. So may I take this opportunity to welcome Mr. Sefa Gudino to make his remarks and introduction to the webinar.
Thank
Welcome.
you.
Yes.
Thank you, moderator, Dr. Florence, for inviting me to this particular webinar. It is my pleasure to make opening remark on this very important and timely topic entitled Gender Dimension in Transboundary Water Management. Ladies and gentlemen, Nile Basin Development Forum is a platform for multi-stakeholder engagement on Nile cooperation and the sustainable management and the development of shared water, Nile water resources. The objective of the platform is to build common understanding on the status of water and the natural resource base of the Nile Basin among stakeholders, examine shared complex challenges, and exchange perspective on solutions to address challenges. The event also serves as a science policy dialogue that facilitates sharing of information, knowledge, best practices, and experiences and building partnership among policymakers and professionals in transboundary water resources management and development. The event is held every 3 years by the Nile Initiative in collaboration with states and development partners. So far, 6 editions of Nile Basin Discourse Forum were held between 2006 to 2021 in different themes. The first edition was held in Addis Ababa in 2006 with the theme that the role of river Nile in poverty reduction and economic development. The second one was held in Sudan in 2008 with the theme that environment and water resource management for peace and cooperation in Nile Basin. The third one was in Rwanda in 2011, that climate change and its implication for sustainable development and treat and opportunities to Nile cooperation. Where the fourth one was in Kenya in 2014, mainly building sustainable transboundary cooperation on complex river basin challenges, lessons, and prospects. And the fifth one was on 2017 with investing on Nile cooperation to secure water in the future. And the sixth one was conducted in Ethiopia again with the agenda that rethinking regional investment in Nile cooperation in water, food, energy, environment, and climate change. And this one was currently ongoing in Uganda. But the reason why I mentioned all these themes in terms of the topic that addressed in SOVAR edition is just to bring gender issues that it has to be bring in front in terms of addressing the Nile issues, because when we deal with the gender, we are dealing with the almost half of the population of the world. So it has to be seen in that case. Specific to this session webinar, I wanted to focus on some related challenges and opportunities in my opening remark on gender, with more focus on women empowerment with different angles. in terms of equity, communities are still biased about women and see them as a weaker gender, which intensifies the exclusion by men. This request is us not to limit ourselves to empowering women, but also get them in control and a part of decision-making processes. Existing policies on women empowerment have good promises, but enforce it to realize invasion results. And these also seek and pursue operationalization of existing policies on women empowerment. Narratives about women in water and environmental management. In households where we are still regarded as social, women are still regarded as social care attendants, a narrative that is strongly reinforced by cultural norms. So these cultural norms or narrative against women should be discouraged starting from grassroots level or at community level. At community level, women are often absent in a strategic position, thereby excluded in managing collective natural resources. Policy tokenism at institutional level only encourage women to participate in pre-planned programs without their input and control on the resources. Communities and institutes should deliberately and inclusively involve women in programs beyond the participation of gender members. So women too deserve to be considered for strategic positions whereby they deserve. In terms of professional, women professional in water sector, women are sector. For example, World Bank report 2019 says that only 80% of all water equity workers, utility workers are women. Only 23% of water engineers are women, and only 23% of managers in water sectors are women. More effort is needed in training and monitoring more women in the water sector. Put in place all initiatives and policies that encourage them to pursue water management professions. So even from the NBDF gender policy and strategy identified, there are also challenges related to this gender. Sectoral approach to gender issue in the Nile Basin is one of the challenges. Differing policy landscape, fragmented approach to water in the Nile Basin, implementation gap, equity in decision-making, lack of participation. The lack of participation in the life cycle of project, from project identification up to implementation, is one of the challenges identified while formulating the gender policy of NBI. Lack of sex, the disaggregated and gender responsive data is one of them. Ladies and gentlemen, even though there are challenges related to implementation of gender on the ground, there is also existing opportunities to move forward. NBI gender mainstream policy and gender strategy is a good start by NBI centers in mainstreaming gender at institutional and project level by assigning gender focal point and allocating budget. Existing national and regional networks that encourage women participation is one of the opportunities. Attention given by international and regional level institutions to support gender mainstreaming and address inequality is one of the opportunities that we can make use of. Existing gender policies and gender national institutions are also a good start. There is also existing regional and international experiences, case studies, research output that would also help us to learn from each other. So just to make my just opening remark shorter, conveying my appreciation to the government of Uganda for accepting to host this 7th Nile Basin Development Forum commitment by NILSEC for all possible arrangement to make this forum happen, and expressing my sincere thanks to GIZ, World Bank, and others for their support to this Nile Basin Discourse Forum, and particularly for this session. I wish you all deliberation and fruitful discussion during this session. Thank you so much. Back to you, moderator.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sefa, for your very good remarks, and which opens for us the floor to discussions. We thank you because you have opened our eyes and really confirmed that indeed there is imbalance, there are challenges, especially in terms of the role of women at different levels of management and governance. As far as water management is concerned, limited participation in the field of profession. I think you have given us very good statistics from World Bank, which we need to look at in terms of aligning the participation level of women at different levels of policy and decision making. And you have also given us opportunities. The Nile Basin Initiative mainstreaming policy on these gender issues, because I really believe that water, as we have said, is life, and everybody has to participate, and the participation level must be balanced so that we can achieve sustainable and equitable management of this common resource, both at national and transboundary level. Thank you very much for that. Now, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we are now moving to the presentations. We have a number of speakers, and we want to give equal opportunity to each speaker. So please, the speakers, please observe time. We shall give you 10 minutes to make your presentation. I will introduce each speaker before the presentation, and I would like to encourage participants that if you have questions or comments, please post them on the chat. Also introduce yourself on the chat, and then there will be time when I will announce the opening of the floor for discussions, and we shall see time allowing. But as you continue to put your questions and comments on the chat, the respective presenters, once they are presented, will be answering, so that we manage our time very, very effectively, and we get the best out of it. Please raise your hands electronically once we start the discussions, and then from there we shall be able to utilize our time very, very effectively. So without wasting much time, we are going to invite the first presenter. Is Caroline Rukundo, Gender Advisor in Global Water Partnership Eastern Africa. Ms. Caroline Rukundo is a dedicated social scientist with a profound commitment to gender equality and social development programming. She boasts a wealth of experience spanning several years and a strong track record in East Africa. Her career has been marked by extensive collaboration with government bodies, international and national NGOs, and more, where she has provided leadership and ensured the integration of gender perspectives in programs and projects. She is right now holding the position of Regional Gender Advisor at Global Water Partnership Eastern Africa. And she indeed, from her CV and biography, she has a wealth of experience which we would want to give time to, so that we can really learn from her. Our topic for presentation is Beyond Boundaries, Exploring Gender Dimensions for Inclusive Nile Basin Transboundary Water Governance. Ms. Caroline, the floor is yours for the next 10 minutes. You are welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Florence, Grace Adongo, for moderating. Good afternoon, participants and panelists. I want to repeat what she had mentioned. She has introduced me. I will be going straight to the presentation on exploring gender dimensions in Nile Basin transboundary water governance. And my presentation will focus on the 3 key areas. That's the gender dimensions and gaps in 10 countries of Nile basins, the existing best practices, recommendations or call to action, and then I will conclude my presentation. The paper covers the gender dimensions of technical working group, and basically it is combining literature survey and comparing case examples that are documented and studies existing. And also the presentation will showcase the practices and case examples within the 10 countries that share the River Nile. I will also examine the strategies for positioning gender equality in water governance in general and also in the water governance. And my the case that I'm presenting is focusing on the 10 countries of Nile Basin, or the nations that share the River Nile. And as the previous keynote speaker mentioned, that within Nile Basin there are various gender dimensions in the Nile Basin countries, and according to studies, in particular the Global Gender Gap Index report that tracks the progress towards achieving gender equality or closing gender gaps in the 4 areas of economic participation and opportunity, education, attainment, health survival, and political empowerment, which are very key in achieving water governance within the Nile Basin. And according to the studies, it is indicated that in sub-Saharan Africa region, most of our countries, the inequalities or the gaps indicate are high. And not only that, but we also have some countries that are doing well. An example is Rwanda, which globally ranks at 12th position in the Global Gender Gap Index report of 2023. The previous year, it was on 6th position. So you see how the inequalities have gone high now, and they have dropped like 50% on their position. And at the sub-Saharan rank, it is on the 2nd position, but in the 2022 it was the 1st position. And we learn a lot from Rwanda. Also, Burundi are among the Nile Basin countries. Burundi is fairly also doing well compared to other countries. For South Sudan and Sudan, there is no available data, and this is attributed to various reasons, maybe the current context, the conflict situation, but also there may be no limited data collection, and then cannot easily be ranked or be tracked. And in terms of participation, because when we talk of water governance, we are looking at women participation, meaningful participation, influencing decisions when it comes to decision concerning the shared resource. And the indicators or the studies indicate that as there is an equal participation of both women and men, which has increased gender inequalities in water access, usage, and decision making. And here we are talking of River Nile as a key water source. And also, according to IOCH, it is indicated that there is inadequate attention to gender equality and women's participation when it comes to water governance, and in terms of research and action plans, and especially the shared resources, the shared water resources. And this has led to women to continue face disparities in economic status and access to natural resources compared to men due to prevailing culture and traditional gender roles. These gender dimensions or the gender inequalities and gaps exist because of various reasons which prevail to norms and traditional gender roles that limit women equal participation and meaningful participation compared to men. And when you look at the gender gap report, it indicates that still the women representation, for example, in the key decision-making processes, especially concerning even natural resources, water resources, it is still inadequate. And the statistics indicate that in terms of political empowerment, and when we look at that indicator, we are looking at participation of women in decision-making, including water resource management. So you find that for example, in Burundi, they are in position of 41st. So it means that there is still low representation of women in those areas where women can influence and share knowledge in terms of water resource management. Rwanda is fair, doing well, and we can learn a lot from it. Uganda, my own country, we are in 49th position, and according to the political empowerment and economic participation and opportunity, having key technical personnel, whereby water is very key, and we find that there are very few women in STEM. We are lucky to have like Dr. Florence, who heads a directorate at the Ministry of Water, but there are very few, like for example, you find that there are very few commissioners at the Ministry of Water that makes decisions concerning water governance. So there are still those gaps that gender inequality that exist within the Nile Basin countries that need to be addressed. And I mentioned that within, however, despite having these gender dimensional gaps, the studies or the various reports have indicated that there are best practices that we can learn from in terms of integrating gender in Nile transboundary water governance. In terms of policy making, we have seen some countries like Uganda, Rwanda, Egypt, DRC have developed specific gender strategies for their water and environmental sectors. And even including NBI Secretariat has its own gender strategy to ensure that gender is mainstreamed within the country. So these strategies help in ensuring that the gender disparities, gender inequalities in terms of water access, use, and management are addressed. And also in some of these strategies that I read, there are specific actions that are trying to promote equal participation of women and men in water governance decision-making processes. So those are some of the countries that have learned. Other countries that have not practiced it, or other regions that share resources can easily adapt some of the gender-responsive policies. In terms of inclusive decision-making platforms, we can learn from Ethiopia, which has had a multi-sectoral platform to ensure that equal representation of women is adhered to, and these platforms will enable meaningful of women in discussion to transboundary water management within the Nile Basin. And I think we are lucky to have Dr. Nature, who will represent on women's participation in water diplomacy as a good example. On the gender responsible programs, there are various initiatives within the region, within the Secretariat, that within the Nile Basin that have been designed to implement gender responsive and gender transformative approaches. And some of the approaches that I can talk about that I'm aware, which my colleague Margaret is going to present on the gender transformative water, climate, and change that promotes or advances gender equality in water security and climate resilience. And the women's participation in water governance is one of the key strategies. Definitely, the issue of capacity building and training is very important, because when the capacity of key stakeholders is built, they will have the capacity to ensure that they are able to identify the gender issues, they are able to identify gender inequalities, and they are able to integrate and address the gender issues that have been identified in water governance or resource management. There are also, we know that information is very important for programming. So the data collection and analysis is very key in ensuring that we are able to know the existing inequalities, the root causes of these inequalities, and able to understand and apply the strategies that the data collection analysis will be used. And some of the countries that have gone ahead to collect sex disaggregated data within the water or natural resource sectors, Uganda and Egypt have always prioritized that, and it is the best practice. We can learn from them. Then another key point that I took note of is the gender responsive budgeting, because if we prioritize gender equality and women empowerment in water governance, it means that we must allocate resources. And in some countries, they can develop a program or a policy or a plan, but you find they have not allocated process. But Uganda and Sudan have gone ahead to adopt gender responsive budgeting, whereby their budgets, the water sector budget and other sectors or the national budgets are always assessed to see how, to what extent they are gender responsive before the budgets are approved. And this ensures that financial resources are allocated to the gender equality initiative within the sector to promote gender equality within water governance.
Should be concluding, please.
Yes, and the recommendation is that the Nile Basin countries, or a call to action, we can adapt and develop or review our frameworks to be gender transformative. We ensure that there is always gender analysis in water resource management, and also the alignment with SDGs, especially Goal 5 that is on gender equality, SDG 6 and 13 that concern the water resource. Definitely, as mentioned, dedicated funding, having gender units, and addressing the cultural barriers that limit women participation in water governance. And another one would be how, especially focused on improving the meaningful participation and enhancing women's participation in water governance. We need to recognize their knowledge that they have value to add in water governance, build their capacity and mentor them, and ensure that there is equal job opportunities for women in the technical or in the transboundary water governance organizations like Nile Basin and other river-based organizations. And in my conclusion, gender equality is very important for productive use and management of transboundary water resources, and equal engagement of women and men in water decision-making yields numerous benefits, including policy attention, improved economic outcomes, and advancement in gender equality. And in terms of water cooperation, women's sharing of water-related technology is essential for cooperative planning and decision-making, as well recognizing women as change makers in water governance and harnessing their knowledge and participation holds the promise of achieving a more balanced and sustainable sharing of water resources, not only within the Nile Basin, but also beyond. And the experiences and best practices that I have shared highlight key potential for us as countries under Nile Basin and other participants who have listened to us. They present a potential for transformative change when gender considerations are integrated into water governance. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Caroline, for that wonderful presentation. Indeed, I can attest to what you have just presented. We are indeed very few. And especially at strategic level, decision-making and policy. So there must be one of the things, best practices is to provide the enabling environment and also affirmative action towards building capacity of women, inclusivity in participation, and also ensuring that there are legal and policy reforms, among others. So thank you very much. We now move to the next presenter. The next presenter is Mrs. Rebecca Tayachu. Mrs. Rebecca is a communication officer with extensive experience in public affairs and communications. She has a proven ability to communicate and engage, as we shall see, with the stakeholders, partners, and government regulatory bodies, with knowledge in community affairs and cooperative advertising. Rebecca is skilled in all aspects of communication and has experience in writing, in editing, distributing content. So this is a very important skill, rare skill. And she's going to make a presentation on the accelerating transboundary water cooperation through inclusive gender mainstreaming and participatory community engagement. So with that background, specializing in community development, and with all this experience, we'd like to invite Ms. Rebecca, Mrs. Rebecca, to take on the floor for the next 10 minutes. You're welcome, Rebecca.
Thank you for the introduction, and good afternoon, everyone. I will present about accelerating transboundary water cooperation through inclusive gender mainstreaming and participatory community engagement. And transboundary water cooperation refers to the coordination and collaboration between different countries sharing the same water resource. It is an essential aspect of ensuring sustainable water management and addressing the challenge posed by shared water bodies such as rivers or lakes. It involves the joint effort of multiple countries to manage and protect their shared water resource. It aims to promote peace, stability, and development by fostering dialogues, cooperation, and coordination among neighboring countries. Achieving successful collaboration in transboundary water management requires more than just technical and legal frameworks. Inclusive gender mainstreaming and participatory community engagement plays integral roles in accelerating transboundary water cooperation in different aspects. When we come to gender mainstreaming, it's, as we all know, it's a process of incorporating a gender perspective into policies, programs, and projects to address and eliminate gender inequalities. It is about prioritizing one gender. It's not about prioritizing one gender over another. Instead, it seeks to ensure that the concern and experience of both men and women are considered in decision-making process by examining how gender roles and expectation impacts individual access to resource and benefits opportunity. Gender mainstreaming and participatory community engagement, it can be involved in actively involving community member in decision-making processes that affect their lives by including diverse perspective, experiences, and voice. You know, we can create more inclusive and effective solution. When communities are engaged in decision-making, they feel a sense of ownership and more like to support and sustain development initiative. This recognize that the community possesses valuable knowledge and insight that can inform the planning and implementation of community. By doing that, the gender mainstreaming ensures the perspective and needs of all gender are integrated into policies, as you can see on the presentations, programs and activities aiming to address gender inequality and promote social inclusion. On the other hand, participatory community engagement also emphasizes the activity involvement of community members in the decision-making process, fostering ownership and empowering local communities. In the context of transboundary water cooperation, considering the different needs, roles, experience of women and men in water management is also important. And considering their knowledge, perspective, skill can contribute significantly to the development and implementation of effective water management. And also including involving the minor communities and genders in different decision-making, policy-making, and actively involving them, their participation ensure their needs, priority, and traditional knowledge are considered. And it also gives different aspects and knowledge for them to work with different communities to share their knowledge, experience. And also this approach fosters ownership, caution, promotes sustainability, and the communities become more active, participatory in everything. When we come to the approach, inclusive gender mainstreaming and participatory community engagement are essential approach in achieving sustainable and equitable community development. And there are different approaches, but for this sake, I choose two approaches that are inclusive gender mainstreaming and participatory community engagement, by which they can create equal opportunity for all individuals, regardless of their gender. By integrating gender perspective into every aspect of community development, we can ensure that everyone's needs and experience are taken into account. Additionally, participatory community engagement empowers individuals to actively participate in decision-making process, fostering a sense of ownership and collective responsibility by more working on inclusive gender mainstreaming and participatory community engagement. When I come to the challenges and barriers, as we all know, there are plenty of challenges. We can mention them, but for this presentation, I pick social, cultural, and institutional barriers by which achieving gender mainstreaming and community engagement faces various barriers. Social and cultural norms that limits women's participation and decision-making power, which hinders progress. Inadequate institutional frameworks, policies, and regulation may also fail to provide an enabling environment for inclusive water management. If we work hard and work with different stakeholders, the gender, the community, and every aspect, it will be possible to overcome these barriers, which requires challenging gender stereotypes, promoting women's empowerment, and strengthening institutional frameworks to promote gender equalities and community involvement in decision-making process. And the other is lack of awareness and capacity building, which is regarding the importance and benefits of gender mainstreaming and participatory community engagement in water management. Enhancing knowledge, providing training, and raising awareness about this concept can help to tackle those challenges. And when I come to the recommendation or the conclusion, developing inclusive policies and different frameworks will help. They can ensure that the gender equalities and community engagement are integrated into policies, frameworks, and decision-making process. And on the other hand, they can invest in capacity building programs for all stakeholders, including women's and local community, to enhance their knowledge and skills in water management. For policymakers, water managers, and community prioritize more gender equality and meaningful community engagement in their decision making. And also we can mention, like, they can establish platform for dialogue and collaboration between different stakeholders and facilitating the exchange of experience, knowledge, and best practice, since women are the most part of people that work with water management, with agriculture, fetching waters, managing the house and everything. And finally, stakeholders can advocate for the allocation of resources and funding to support gender mainstreaming and community engagement initiative in transboundary water cooperation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Rebecca, for that wonderful presentation. You have really given us, shared with us the knowledge and efforts made and demonstrated efforts made to enhance community participation and engagement with respect to involving the women at different levels of engagement. And indeed, you have talked about sharing knowledge and experience And I think the NBDF is a very good forum that has allowed us to do that exactly. We want to thank you very much. And indeed, you have really confirmed that, which is true, especially in Africa, women interact more with the environment. So why is it that at decision level, at different levels, women are not involved? This is a question, and I think we are here to answer. Yeah, much as the policy and legal frameworks, is it working? And to what extent does it work? Can we evaluate its impact? I think these are some of the questions that we are going to look at as we share experience. Thank you very much. Our next presenter is Margaret. Margaret, the next name is very difficult, but I'll try. Harikundira. Global Water Partnership, Eastern Africa, based in Uganda. Now, Margaret serves as a project manager at Global Water Partnership, Eastern Africa. And she holds a degree in science in forestry from Makerere University, postgraduate diploma in project planning and management from Uganda Management Institute, and a master's degree in integrated water resources management. Margaret has demonstrated exceptional leadership in both national and subnational government institutions within Uganda. And currently she's really dedicated to enhance and share her knowledge and experience with the Global Water Partnership, Eastern Africa, and provide the required service from a wider perspective. And our profound commitment lies in pursuit of suitable solutions that bolster the resilience of nature and communities. And within the communities, I'm sure Margaret is enhancing and supporting the imbalance in gender so that we can have sustainable and equitable management of our resources, especially water. So your presentation is on gender transformative water climate development, a case of Maziba catchment in Kagera, Lake Victoria Basin. Margaret, the floor is yours. Do we have Margaret on?
Yes, she is at the Secretariat office.
Yeah, she's
Okay.
about to join. I've got a technical issue we are solving it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
A minute.
Thank you, moderator. I'm called Margaret, Global Water Partnership, Eastern Africa. I take this opportunity to present the experience of gender transformative approach in the Lake Victoria management zone, especially in the Maziba catchment. The intervention is integrated in the Gender Transformative Water and Climate Development Program.
It is not shared.
We don't see the screen, Margaret, please.
We are having challenges loading it, but it will come shortly. So she's introducing
Okay.
as we.
Yeah, she can continue because of time. Yeah, fine, thanks.
Yes, the gender transformative
We are very sorry for that. Participants, please put your questions and contribution on the chat. We shall be able to, the presenters, those who have done the presentation will be able to do that, but also other participants, give your views once comment or question is provided by our colleagues.
May I share from here?
We are suggesting that you call the next presenter as we sort out the presentation. Then Margaret will be the next after the presenter, the next presenter. Who is
Okay, thank you. So the next presenter is Miss Malimusi Hadija from Tanzania Nile Discourse Forum in Mwanza, Tanzania. Hadija is the National Technical Support Expert of Tanzania Nile Discourse Forum and the General Secretary of National Nile Women Network in Tanzania. She's also a member of the National Multi-Stakeholder Forum for Water Resources Management and former alternate member of the National Multi-Stakeholder CSO in the extractive sector. Hadija has been working in water resources management, sanitation, climate change resilience, gender and development issues for over 9 years. She holds a master's degree in development management, specializing in climate change resilience and project development. And we are going to hear a presentation by Hadija on strengthening MAMOCAF for grassroots women engagement in Mara River Basin. Ms. Hadija, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I am Hadija Malimusi, as introduced. I am from Tanzania. I am the National Coordinator of Tanzania Nile Discourse Forum, that is TNDF, riparian member organization of Nile Basin Discourse. My presentation is on strengthening MAMOCAF for grassroots women engagement in Mara River Basin management. My outline is like that. We're going to see what is Mara River Basin, the Mara region, as we have the entire region called Mara here in Tanzania, and we will know what is MAMOCAF. We'll see the gender issue issues in MAMOCAF and the women in transboundary engagement. We'll have conclusions.
Hadija, we are having echo. I don't know. Do you have 2 computers or a phone near you? There are some echoes which is obstructing your presentation. Yeah.
Okay, I have muted one of it because of the internet.
Oh yeah, that's now good. Thanks.
Okay, Mara River Basin.
The slide is also not shared. Moderator, the screen is not shared. Yeah.
Are we together?
We are yet to see the screen. It's not yet shared.
If she faces any challenge, I will share from here.
Do you have any challenge in sharing? Okay, okay. Yes, make it a full screen, please. Presentation mode.
Is it full now?
No, we cannot see.
You are sharing your entire screen. Share only the window with the presentation. It appears Malimusi also has challenges, but Margaret is ready to run. Dr. Florence.
So do we change again? Okay. So are you proposing we change?
Yes, it seems Miss Narmisi has got issues to connect. I see she's trying to connect. So we can change instead.
Can you
Yeah.
share your screen to confirm that you are ready? Okay. Participants, we are sorry for that, but now we are going to look at Margaret's presentation, and I'd already introduced her on gender transformative water and climate development, a case of Maziba catchment in Kagera Lake Victoria Basin. So Margaret, please, let's use 10 minutes to make the presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Florence. I'm Margaret Ahari Kondola, and I take this opportunity to present the experience of the gender transformative approach in the Lake Victoria, Victoria Water Management Zone, the Maziba catchment. The gender transformative approach is presented through the gender transformative water and climate development in the Maziba catchment, which is a subcatchment of the Victoria Water Management Zone in Uganda. The Water and Climate Development Program is a sub-program of Africa Water Investment Program, and it is sponsored by Austria Development Agency and implemented by Global Water Partnership in collaboration with the Ministry of Water and Environment. The main goal is to ensure that the policies, the programs, and strategies that are implemented in water and climate sector to ensure resilience to water security and climate resilience, they advance gender equality. And its overall goal is to transform the gender inequalities by promoting gender transformative plans, policies, and actions. And gender transformative planning.
Yes.
Yes.
We are losing the voice. Okay, proceed. But the screen.
The gender
okay.
transformative. Okay. Gender transformative water and climate development project is piloted in 5 countries in the entire Africa. And these countries, we include Uganda, Tunisia, Benin, Zambia, and Cameroon. In Uganda, it is piloted in the Maziba catchment, Victoria Water Management Zone. And under the Maziba catchment, the investment administrative government bodies include Kabale, Ntungamo, Rubanda, and Ruchiga district.
The presentation, please. Screen.
Okay, move on again. So gender transformative approaches defined for water security as applied by the gender transformative approach in the GWP. GTA, in advancing its gender equality, it targets the structures, relations, and agency as the domains of development, especially in governance levels of Uganda. Other structures, we mean both written and written rules here, including policies, the traditional norms, regulations, and other procedures. Then in relations, we mean lobbying and advocacy to include gender-related priorities. Then at agency, it is ensuring capability in planning and action, and also gaining result. The project targets policymakers, institutional and investment planners, and even individual households. Thank you. Let's move on. The gender inequalities are also widened by the presence of climate change. When climate change impacts come in and find that there are inequalities already, the person, for example, women who are already suffering the inequality, they face it more. For example, they find that they have low capabilities, low knowledge, low skill, and also the policies are not taking care of their responsibilities or their benefits or their needs and the social value of water. So you find that they're not easily accessing information and technology, especially early warning and drought-tolerant varieties. The natural resources base is not easily accessible, and institutions are not taking care of their needs and also interests. The gender transformative approach, targeting 3 levels of transformation at a structure level, relationship level. At structures level, we concentrate on policies, practices, and at relationship, basically advocacy and lobbying agency. We mentioned it is about action and result. For WorkDepG, which is the gender transformative project, it is specifically first carries out gender analysis for every intervention that is going to undertake, establish the gender needs, gender interests, and the gender expectations, such that this can guide programming and planning and also budgeting for the development that is to take place. So the methodology that we have used is a hybrid methodology to integrate the gender transformative approach in water and climate development in Uganda. This has been done in collaboration with the Ministry of Water and Environment. It has been integrated in the national development systems, especially the very first step that we took was to compose the team, the national level technical working group, and this supported in applying knowledge, skill, the tools and techniques that are required for advancing benefits and value of the project. Here we went ahead to collaborate with the Maziba Water Catchment Management Committee, and this is where we interacted with their tools, including their catchment management plan and also institutional framework. We went ahead to interact with the Muchirwa community to pilot the gender transformative approach at community level. The results of the project are also classified according to the structures, relations, and also agencies which present the domains of interaction of the project or the gender transformative approach with the development framework of the government of Uganda. Uganda. At the structure level, the gender transformative approach has interacted with the National Water and Climate Development Strategy, where the regulatory impact assessment for the review of the national gender policy was supported technically. And in addition, the gender analysis for water, for IWRM, that is Integrated Water Resources Management, related policies were analyzed, and these ones guided the entry point for the project. The Maziba Catchment Water Management Plan, the gender analysis was also done, and it was found that the catchment management plan was actually gender blind, and the recommendation was that the Maziba Catchment Management Plan should be reviewed. Then at relations level, we have engaged with capacity building, where we have created awareness on existing gender inequalities and stereotypes, capacity building for mandated institutions and the national working groups, then capacity building on the water and climate leadership and decision-making. Then at agency level, we interacted with the behavior and empowerment. Behavior, we promoted women decision-making roles. We built the capacity for focal point persons and mandated water, climate sector investment planners. At the district level of interaction, we made sure that there are established focal point persons to ensure that there is continuity and there is continuity of the project within the government structures at the local level. Mocherwa community demonstrated this gender transformative approach at their own level, at community level. We trained in enterprise identification and designing and established enterprise management committees. The important lessons that were learned from implementation of the gender transformative water and climate development project in Uganda. The project learned that the National Integrated Water Resources Management Strategy provided a workable platform for gender integration in the water and climate programming. We ensured that we understood the way the government works. How does the government manage its interventions related to water and climate? And we found that the integrated water resources management was encompassing or was providing an umbrella for various policies, including the forestry policy, the water policy, the climate policy, all were embedded within the integrated water resources management strategy. Then the gender analysis for every intervention that we were making, a gender analysis, we find it that it is a powerful tool to achieve an inclusive water secure world and climate resilience, because it provides priorities that represent the needs and expectations of all the gender. Then leveraging on pre-existing projects within the catchment offers readily attainable opportunities. This project was implemented in, it is implemented in the Maziba catchment. In Maziba catchment, there is a project which was already being implemented by the Ministry of Water and Environment called Eureka, that is enhancing resilience of the communities to respond against climate change. So we incorporated the groups that were already established by Eureka, and for us, we came in and integrated the gender transformative approach. While Eureka was only enhancing resilience, but it was not capturing the disparities in gender access water and climate services. Then women's participation in community groups transformed their confidence levels and self-worth, improved speech and voice. For example, the person in the picture is called Robina. She's the chairperson of Mochirwa Mochigwa Women Conservation Group. This she's speaking to is a capacity building, a training on women leadership and capacity building in gender transformative approaches. So she can confidently stand and speak to a group of people, even when they have higher education levels than she is. Then it motivates the local individual households to act when given an opportunity. The piloting group, we found that they had the willingness, because with the activities that we were implementing as pilot, including energy cook stoves, including rainwater harvesting technology, but they were expected to co-fund. So you would find that they would come with a zeal to co-fund. For example, to collect the locally raised materials, sand and stones. They would be willing and looking forward to accessing that technology into their households. Okay.
Please conclude. Time has run out.
Yeah, then the strategic alignment in the Nile Basin. Strategic alignment in the Nile Basin, it calls for understanding of the Nile Basin organization strategic plan, like we did in Uganda. We first understood how Uganda operates with its water investments, understand how the GTA goals matter to the Nile Basin, long-term vision and mission. For us at Uganda, we did a business case study to identify the benefits and the values of GTA in the water sector, and these ones we presented them to the government. Then we ensured that the gender focal point persons were trained in gender analysis to ensure that they support government programs. Then here, the Nile Basin catchment can still work with partners to develop an appropriate delivery strategy. This is GTA value delivery. And then implement the strategy to maximize the benefits of GTA as will have been identified by the business case study. Please. So this is still interactive. It is still needs a, okay. So the proposed 3-step approach to upscaling gender transformative approach in the transboundary water basin. Of course, the River Nile Basin is a bigger catchment than the Maziba catchment. But here, what it is proposed is a 3-step approach. The 3-step approach still promotes the gender transformative approach that has been piloted by the Global Water Partnership, Eastern Africa, and the globe in its 5 countries. The Nile Basin Initiative, or the Nile Basin Management, together with the partners, they can understand the value of the gender transformative approach through the business case study to ensure that they identify the value and the benefit that the gender transformative approach will bring to the Nile Basin development. The partners here would include Global Water Partnership, SIWA, and Nile Basin Investment Programs, that is NELSAP and ENTRO, together with GIZ and World Bank. Then the Nile Basin Initiative, in collaboration with the investment programs, the gender transformative strategy can be implemented to enhance the benefits in investment strategies. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Margaret, for that good exposure on what has happened on the ground in the Maziba catchment with the different 3-level areas of approaches in order to enhance mainstreaming of the gender and empower the women so that they have the confidence to undertake decisions and practices that can support the water management. Now, I don't know whether Hadija is ready now. Secretary.
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, please. Can you make your presentation now? I'd already introduced you. And please move straight to the presentation.
I don't know where the problem is. I'm trying to share my screen.
Ms. Adija, if you have a challenge, we are ready to run it from the command center.
Okay.
May we run the presentation?
Yeah,
I think
run
so.
it.
Okay.
Can you make it full screen presentation? Thank you. Please, Hadija, let's move.
Okay, let's go to another slide. Yeah, this is an outline I've explained before. That is, we'll have a little bit of Mara River Basin. We'll have to know what is Mara region, what is Mammoth, gender.
I think she is having internet challenges. Secretariat, can you hear her?
No, we can't hear her.
No.
Okay, Aditya, are you on?
I think she is having internet problem. What do we do? I need to be guided in this.
We move to the next, Dr. Florence.
Okay. Next is Femina Achuba, Senior Sociologist, Gender Expert, Minister of Water and Environment. Femina is a senior sociologist, as I've said. She holds a master's degree in development studies from the Institute of Social Studies in The Hague, Netherlands. And she has a BA in social sciences from Makerere University. She has a lot of experience as gender specialist and a trainer in water environment sector, spanning over 20 years now. She has led several gender mainstreaming initiatives in water and environment, and she has led the development of the first Africa Ministers' Council of Water Gender Strategy. She has a wealth of experience in social impact assessments. She has a long experience. Femina, because of time, let me give you opportunity to make a presentation on gender analysis of River Maziba catchment in Uganda. Femina, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much for this opportunity. I'll not dwell so much, I'll just go straight to the presentation. One thing I just want to add about myself is that I'm also a member of the Women in Water Diplomacy Network. My presentation outline, I will begin with introduction, and then I'll look at the overall context, and then I'll look at the objectives of the gender analysis that was done, the methodology, and the findings. As a way of introduction, it is agenda we already know. It is the SDG 5 objective, which is intended to ensure gender equity and equality for women, boys, and girls, and it cuts across all the SDG objectives. As a way of introduction, we know that decision-making and institutional processes for climate resilient water interventions are not adequately addressing gender issues. And this study is basically located It is an analysis, gender analysis of the river Maziba, which is within the Kagera and Lake Victoria Basin, that is close to Uganda and Rwanda border. The river itself is a transboundary in nature within the country because it traverses 4 districts. Uganda government also acknowledges that the gender inequalities are here with us, and it has made policies and also developed a gender mainstreaming strategy to address this. The objectives of the gender analysis, we had 4 objectives for doing the gender analysis, but I will only concentrate on the first objective. The others, because of the nature of this presentation, we cannot delve into them. But these objectives, for the purpose of the presentation, there are 4. It was to enhance the understanding of how gender dynamics influence the ability of women, men, boys, and girls to participate in climate resilient water investment programming. And the other one was to inform the development of a gender action plan. And the third one was to engender the Maziba catchment management. And the other one was to build the capacity of the staff. But as I said already, we shall only focus on number 1, that is to enhance the understanding of how the gender dynamics influence women and men's and boys and girls' participation in climate resilience water investment programming. The methodologies that we used were both qualitative and quantitative, and this included a desk review, interviews of stakeholders and key informants. We also had a group focus group discussions, and we used the gender analysis tools, and in particular we used the Harvard analytical tool, the roles, access, and control planning matrix, and gender and practical needs, and also the gender equity and empowerment framework. The findings focused mainly on the drinking water, the fuel wood, disease burden, decision making, livelihoods, that's agriculture and food, water-related hazards, floods, droughts, and pollution. And of course, these are the climate and IWRM-related concerns. That is what the findings that I'm going to present focused on. And I want to say that there were many more other findings, but my presentation is going to focus on these particular ones. This was a distribution of the respondents, and we can find that almost men and women participated in the survey, although there were more men than women. Regarding the access to safe water, it was found out that actually there was the community had good access to safe water sources. And then, of course, the highest was in Rubanda district, which was 100%. But as we go to the next slide, we shall see a controversy. Despite this, diseases were still persistent. When we look at the disease burden, we found out that typhoid, which is a water-related disease, was so much experienced by the residents in the last 12 months. Although there was very high access to safe water, but you found that there was still a very high burden of water-related disease, which points to the fact that perhaps most of those water sources were already polluted. And actually, many of them get their sources from gravity flow schemes, which are definitely vulnerable to contamination because of degradation of the water sources or the catchment area. And when we looked at the decision making for domestic water, it was found out that it is mostly women who make the decisions of domestic water, in other words, drinking water at home. Men distance themselves from the drinking water decisions because they don't collect water, but it's only women who collect the water. And then, and in most cases, it is actually women and children who collect the water. And then we found out that water scarcity was due to mainly drought that is related to climate change, and that water scarcity in some cases led to early marriages because some girls preferred to get married rather than trekking long distances daily in search of water. Also, this led to gender-based violence, because gender-based violence was on increase because of water scarcity, which is related to climate change. And then we looked at the reasons which the women gave, the men and women, the community gave for not protecting the ecosystem. The reasons given were limited land. Women had limited, both men and women had limited land, and therefore they resorted to settling in eco-sensitive areas. These are the wetlands. There was also poor waste management, and there were no resources, for instance, for tree planting, and limited knowledge to protect the ecosystem. And so it was found out that women cannot take decision over the protection of natural resources, like for instance, wetlands and forests, because they don't own land, and because they do not own land, they cannot participate in sustainable use of the resources or the protection or even the regeneration or restoration of the resource. And then we also found out that there were culturally, of course, women don't own land. They can only access. And also that women hardly practice what they learn. Women may attend the trainings for restoration of wetlands, forests, but they cannot use eco-friendly agriculture, but they cannot practice these things because they do not have they don't own the land, and so they can't do much. And of course, decisions to plant what kind of crops belongs to the men because they do not own land. And another thing that limited women was their reproductive role, because they had a lot of responsibilities, household chores, which limits them from sustainable use or from participating in conservation of the ecosystem. And also, women mainly use fuel wood, as opposed to clean energy. They mostly use fuel wood, which is also contradictory to which leads to unsustainable use of the resources.
Please move a bit fast. Your time is running out.
Yeah, when it came to water-related hazards, we found out that there were many factors which came out, and the results included displacement of people, diseases, increasing level of poverty, low level of crop yields, destruction of property, loss of animals, loss of livelihood, and the loss of crops was the biggest factor, effect. And when we asked about the sufficient use of water for economic purposes, it was found out that most of the people said the water was sufficient for economic use. But however, men still have the control of how to use the resource. And we found out that over 90% of women are involved in agriculture, meaning that any intervention to improve their livelihood should address agriculture. And then also women were involved. Women could be involved in irrigation to address issues of their livelihood. And there needs to be also empowerment, financial empowerment, in order for the women to address their needs. And we went through their practical and strategic needs. We found out there were several strategic needs for both men and women, and this cut across from water-related ecosystem protection, water-related hazards, economic development activities. They had different types of practical and strategic needs.
Femina, can you conclude,
lessons
please?
learned.
We are running short of time.
This is the last slide now. These are the lessons that were learned. We learned that ownership of land by men influences women's participation in ecosystem protection and also in socio-economic activities. And the heavy burden of women deters women from engaging in ecosystem protection. Domestic violence affects women's self-esteem and participation, especially in community and project work. And women hardly make decisions except for female-headed households. And we found out that information and technology gap for especially women affects their empowerment, and that limited ownership of land by women limits their access to resource and credit facilities. And population growth also escalates the ecosystem degradation. Recommendations sensitize women and men about their rights and how to share responsibility in order to reduce women's burden. And then active participation for them to be able to participate actively in ecosystem protection, also to participate in climate smart agriculture. And also promote initiatives for alternative livelihoods. Introduce financial empowerment programs targeting women. In Uganda, we have the newly introduced the Paris Development Model, which can go a long way. And also, we can also reduce women's burden by promoting energy-saving devices like the energy-saving stoves. And we can also promote male champions in order to address this. And finally, we can use water diplomacy skills, which are being promoted by women in water diplomacy, and that can be done. And then we can do networks, partnerships, and collaboration to achieve this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Femina, for the in-depth presentation based on the experience of gender analysis in the Maziba catchment. You have identified issues affecting men, women, and also recommended certain areas that we can use to empower the women so that they can enhance their contribution in transboundary water management. I think that is very important. Thank you very much. Our next presenter is Dr. Adanech Yared Gilo, Nile River Basin Investment Program Regional Coordinator, Nile Basin Initiative Secretariat in Entebbe. Dr. Adanech has 15 years of experience in leadership, research, teaching, consultancy, different event coordination and advisory work in areas of water, climate change, capacity development, and policy. She is the Nile River Basin Investment Program expert, as I've told you, currently responsible for Basin Investment Program, and she's a founder member and president of the Ethiopian Women in Water Association that is currently very active, and she has also been assistant professor at Addis Ababa Science and Technology University. And Dr. Adanech has a very rich experience. I think from childhood, she has many awards as the young female academician and researcher of the university with extraordinary achievements in various disciplines. So she's here right now in 10 minutes to present contribution of Ethiopian Women in Water Association to raise visibility of women in water and in general, and water diplomacy in particular. Dr. Adanech, the floor is yours.
Thank you, moderator.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, moderator. My presentation is, as the moderator said, focusing the contribution of Ethiopian Women in Water Association to raise visibility of women in water sector, especially in the water and related, like climate, environment, and so on in general, and particularly in water diplomacy, in the women in water diplomacy.
Can you, Dr. Adanech, please put your presentation, your PowerPoint into presentation mode. Thank you.
Okay. Just to give the background information, just to give background information, as you know, the water is strategic resource and an essential element of security to change the life of our peoples in the Nile beyond, and it's required to secure this water. So sustainable, fair, and efficient management is required regarding to dedicated and qualified professions from both genders. A strong commitment from both gender equality and social inclusion is required for water security, for sustainable management and development of the water resource. As you know, women have critical roles, as you heard even from previous presentation, to play in the water resource management and the protection, and also for development. What evidence showing regarding to engaging women in water governance, especially in the good policy, and there is also a gender gap persistence in the water sector. When we check the balance of the women and the men in the decision making and the water governance part, there is huge gap. The participation of women in the key decision making process, or on the participation of the initiative connected to water, like in the local level, institutional, political level, is very low, especially in some parts is scarce. If you see the picture at the top of right side, the males are discussing about the woman, and one of their friends asked, "Woman, where is our woman?" I think they said, and the women, they are too busy to discuss the water. Why they are busy? They are featured, especially in the rural and developing countries. The women are the mandate of fetching water, feeding their family is a mandate of the women. Because of that, they are trying to find water to collect and also to prepare some food, and that means to help facilitation and to support her family. So even they can't give sometimes an opportunity to become and sit together and to discuss or to deal with them. So this is a lot of challenge, especially in the developing country. When women are included or part of this, they often confront of major obstacles, including even male resistance and stereotypically perception that women lack the ability to engage in the technical discussions. Maybe the discussion of the water, it seems like only the technical issue, but it's not only the technical issue. That is, it's required perspective of both genders, from the male and also from the women, because women and men have different roles and responsibilities in a society. They also have different knowledge and experience relate to the water management and development. The water scarcity in Ethiopia, this is proves to be the burden of women. For women, because of this, the women are sacrificing to do something, even to work additional job or to get additional job or to do something additional rather than only doing household activities, to go to education, to attend, especially the girls, because a long distance, walking long distance, fetching water is expected from women. Creating money, there is a big challenge. Providing the water to their family is expected from them. Why Ethiopian Women in Water Association is created. So the main objective of Ethiopian Women in Water
We have lost. Dr. Zak, are you hearing? We have lost.
At the high levels, very almost
Yes,
nearest to zero. And even in the technical level, also there is a lot of gap, a lot of difference. So to increase the visibility of professional women, this association is created, and also enhance women participation and leadership in the sector. When we come to the status of the association is legally registered association as a civil society organization. This is a certificate of the association. The association have also the office. The office of the association is hosted by Ministry of Water and Energy, Ethiopian Ministry of Water and Energy. Thank you for their support. Ministry of Water and Energy not host only the office, they are supporting financially and also in kind. What is the challenge of women in water professions? Currently, the water professions are the participation in the qualified and also professional women in the water topic at high, middle, and low level, and also even in the expert level is minimum. And in some places also it's non-exist. Sometimes those professionals even facing difficulties to getting back to the workforce and their previous position. For example, after giving birth and also carrying out of other social and cultural obligations. Practically, what we observe and what our team are also facing is some members of even the association, they have this challenge, they have migraine problem, they have also depression problem because of these challenges. So after they come in and after joining this network, a lot of members, they are improving their life. So therefore, this association will create a platform to share ideas, for capacity building trainings, experience exchanging opportunities, the networking to empower, to encourage women, and also ultimately contribute to gender balance and diversity in the sector. The association also facilitating the inclusion of women in the water discussions, which will be lead to better decision making, improve resource management, and also fresh perspective to development of the society. The association success stories normally, by the way, the association it's got legally registered in November 15, 2022. It's less than 1 year since it's become to legal body, but since it's established almost nearest to 18 months. So the success story is the association employed office manager since July 1st, 2023. This is realized that the fruit of the association prevailing within short period of the time employ its own staff and create job opportunity for others. The other success story is one of the association members got a job due to the information shared through the association network, and also witnessed that this is a new chapter in her work life after many years of staying at home without a job. Even this woman was struggling with a headache, migraine problem, and so on. Now she is smiling, and also her family also smiling. So this realized that a fruit of the association prevails within short period of time, and this kept members to contribute more. This roadmap is show the success story of the associations, starting first General Assembly meeting that was held in 27 April 2022, still now, until this NBDF. I will try to catch up only the basic points. The one is the association was a part of UN Water Conference 2023 from the beginning, from preparation to the actual the physical meeting. So we contribute transformative future water security in the transformative future water security part and in the preparation, and also by preparing the 6 objectives to bring for UN Water Conference for discussion and decisions. So we are also the part of that. We are working as the working group for implementation of this according to the commitment of transformative future water security. So there is a lot of events happen. The one is the 3 General Assembly meeting was held. The first annual conference was held. UN Water Conference, we have been part of that. Valuing water event part, concerned generation, generation multi-stakeholder forum have been part of that, and also the multi-stakeholder coalition of gender and water call for action. We have been part of this, and the different exhibitions.
Please wind up
exhibition and
of time. Yes, could you wind up?
So why we participate in the UN Water Conference, that was help, or what we learned from that one is help us to learn new approach and ideas to achieve the objective of the association, to advertise the association, and provide us an opportunity to build partnership and network with expertise and influence working in the various water sector, and also shared experience with successful association and organizations. And we learn a lot from the expertise and influencers in the sector on new approach and ideas on how we can contribute to the delivery of SDGs. So the association also committed to contribute for SDG goals achievements. We commit to contribute for SDG goal 5, goal 6, that is gender equality, 6, clean water and sanitation for all, climate action in the peace, justice, and strong institutions, and partnership for the goal. You can find from this URL our commitment. Regarding to capacity building and trainings, as you know, Ethiopia is more than nearest to 75% of Ethiopian surface water.
Please wind up, please, Doctor. Wind up, please. We are running short of time completely.
Okay, so the participation of the water professional women in water diplomacy is very low or insignificant. So to improve this gap, the association is arranging different training to strengthen the role of women in water diplomacy. This will increase the overall capacity of water diplomacy and finally leverage the overall voice of women in decision-making bodies. So the association is also part of the Women in Water Diplomacy in the Nile Beyond and global transformative future water security coalition, and the multi-stakeholder coalition for call for action accelerating gender equality in the water domain, and so on. The association members, they are writing project proposals and conducting some projects. The one is empowering women in water diplomacy and women in water diplomacy baseline study of Ethiopia. The other is the impacts of climate change on women, the case study of Borno Oromia region, Ethiopia, review on ecoecology or nature-based science, impacts on water quality, quantity, biodiversity, and ecosystem service, and gender mainstreaming in selected project area of Ethiopia, accessing gender mainstreaming on One Wash program of Ethiopia, because the second phase of One Wash program is implementing in Ethiopia, to check that one, how much gender is mainstreaming, and review on women participation in water resource management in selected project area, and gender inequality of climate change and disaster in Ethiopia. What lessons we learn? So networking is a key tool for the progress of our association. Therefore, we will keep it networking so far. Capacity building training is very important for realization of planned implementation and increase the visibility of the professional at every level. So we will maintain that path for future too. Who are our partners? Our partners are Ministry of Water and Energy, US Embassy in Ethiopia is supporting by facilitating different events with partners, UNESCO, Water Resource Institute, Nile Basin Discourse, the Inspired Ethiopian Youth Association, Water LCW, UMI, UNESCO World Water Resource Assessment Program, and Addis Ababa Science Technology, and so on. What is our financial resource? The financial resource membership contribution. We have membership contribution, partner support, especially at this time in kind, and project overhead. So we are using social medias. Please,
there are
you
two
can
more
find us
presentations.
website.
Two more
and
presentations.
social,
We are running short of time, please.
So you can join us and also support the association to achieve the SDG commitment, and also the objective of the association to support your sisters too. Thank you. I submit, Chair, Moderator.
Yes, thank you very much. Very interesting, but we have run short of time. I'm hoping that this will be shared, the presentation, so that I can see a lot of comments. This is very, very impressive, and I think there's a lot of lessons to learn, and also to, to emulate. So thank you very much, Dr. Adenesh, for that good exposure. I don't know whether the Hadija is ready, but I can see communication that Mr. Habwe, Gerald, Department of Sociology, is ready. Command Office, can you confirm this?
Let's go to Elizabeth as we sort out to presentation for Gerard. Thank you.
According to
I
me,
am ready, Madam.
I'm almost finished. I was told some people are not available. So can I be updated from that side?
This is my presentation, Madam. I am ready.
Yes, please proceed. Command Center, please confirm whether I have any more presenters. And the time? Please proceed. 10 minutes. You share your screen.
So,
share your screen, please.
and I think that's the problem. I tried to share, but it is not seen.
Can the Command Center help us share from our side? Is it possible?
Yes, we are going to share. Let her be presenting as we
So please
wait.
proceed, because we are running short of time. Please proceed. As we...
Okay, I think now my screen is on. As I have stated that the outline is already being discussed, I'm going straight forward to Mara River. And the Mara River is originated from Kenya. Kenya is the upstream, and Tanzania is the downstream, where it is in Tanzania, the Mara River is distributing its water in Mara region. Mara River Basin covers the area for 13.7 50 kilometers square, whereby 65% of it is located at Kenya and 35% of it is in Tanzania. It is all in the Mara region in these districts, that Tarime district, Rorya, Serengeti, Butiama, and Butiama district. Soil type and distribution of the basin are governed by geology, topography, and rainfall. Along with rainfall variability in space, the basin is known for rainfall variability in time. Mara River Basin is impacted widely by human activities such as deforestation, agriculture, land for settlement, mining, etc. And some of these activities have a lot of negative consequences such as droughts, floods, and pollutions. The Mara region, I think it is best to know that the Mara region, which is the downstream of the Mara River. This region has a total of 2.372 million people and 1.1 men and 1.2 women, and whereby farming is the subsistence economy in the region. The region is endowed with a large deposit of gold, which makes it the richest regions in gold deposit in East Africa. There is a Serengeti National Park in the region, and it hosts a unique ecosystem and famous for long year migration of 1.5 million wildebeest and 250,000 zebra. Despite having many tribes in the region, but the region is characterized by strong male dominance in hierarchical structure. Women are considered as the second sex, owning little or no properties, having little or no voices in decision-making platforms. Even in the family platform, they don't have voice. And yet they are strong productive forces in the family and community level. What is MAMOCAF? As I have been introduced before, that I am from Tanzania Nile Discourse Forum, which is the riparian country organization of Nile Basin Discourse. And together we had our member, which is called Victoria Farmers and Fishers Organization. It is a non-government organization located in Mara. Together we pioneered to establish a mechanism which ought to bridge the gap between the government and the local communities. And that tool is called as MAMOCAF, which aimed at pushing the grassroots issues of Mara River catchment in the districts, regional, national, and hence transboundary level, aiming at human development. So MAMOCAF is the abbreviation of the Mara Mori Catchment Forum, and was officially established as a non-government organization in 2019, and it has the custodian, who is the Lake Victoria Basin Water Board government institution. The forum started with 19 member organizations and expanded into 42 as we speak. And the member organizations include civil society organizations, CSO, community-based organizations, CBOs, social groups, private sector such as mining, hotel, and tourism agencies. MAMOCAF and the gender issues. Men and women have different interests, have different uses, have different desires and perceptions in water and water resource management. As Mara River Basin is currently stressed, women in the Maramori catchment are double stressed, mainly due to less involvement in catchment management. Despite MAMOCAF active engagement, women voices and engagement are limited. Women in Mara region are considered as the second, as I've said, owning little or owning nothing, have no voice, and yet they are strong productive force in the family. During the establishment of MAMOCAF, the forum had less than 10 women, of whom no one occupied any administration role. But as we keep raising awareness and advocacy to the women, the forum now managed to have 3 women in the administration, and they are taking the vice positions. And also we have more than 40 women in the forum. And these 40, they are just not 40, they are active women, the 40 active women in the forum. MAMOCAF with the transboundary engagements. Climate change extremes, which in our country, droughts and floods, are directly impacting communities in Mara region and the basin at large. MAMOCAF managed to establish women championship cadre inside the forum, which means that we train the women to be trainers of the trainer, aiming at diving deeper in capacity building of these women for effective dialogue, advocacy, and transboundary engagement. That is, we aim at capacitating these women, some of these women who could take active roles in advocacy and transboundary engagements. But due to strong dominant structure in the region, that women are strongly required to seek permissions to their husband or family heads to attend these trainings. So at the end, we had only 14 women managed to complete the training by 2022. And these women in these recent years, these champions engage meaningful in the village and wards year budget dialogue, which foster district and national water budgets. At least these women can enter in this village and wards budget dialogue, and their views could be heard even in the national water budget. To conclude, the proportion of women and men according to our national census of last year stipulate that women are voluminous, women are many. And the Mara region, that the region statistics shows that women are strong productive force in the family and the community, as I've stated above. But the climate change hazards, especially droughts and floods together, amplify that grassroots women need to have seats on the table. That is, they do not need only to have seats on the table, but they need to have many more seats in the table. That is, their voices, their perception, interest, desire, and agenda could be well represented and interpreted appropriately by themselves, not by men. As a takeaway, there are 2 things in this takeaway, that is strengthening grassroots women dialogue for meaningful participation in Mara River region and transboundary engagement, calls for water stewardship awareness, that water should be used in a way that is economically beneficial, environmentally sustainable, and socially equitable through stakeholder inclusion. And the other takeaway is adapting to impacts of climate change in water resource management has taught families and communities here in Mara region that water is a common denominator for all water sector users in the community. That is, water is the first thing, the first sector, and the other sectors or other things could follow. So water resource management should adhere effectively a multi-sectoral approach as well. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you, moderator, for giving the third option to enter in this presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Hadija. And thank you for really keeping time and giving us the experience from the Mara region. And I think that's a wealth of experience in seeing how best we can provide women with opportunity for empowerment so that they can also contribute and their voice and interests are interpreted and the level of participation is increased. Indeed, you have shown that women is a very strong productive force, which is really agreeably so. But our question is, what is exactly holding us? I know there are many challenges down there, but we need to come out in this webinar session, how best we can handle this at different levels, just to make sure that the world we live in remains sustainable for all of us. So I think, thank you very much. You have made a very good presentation. I have Elizabeth and Gerald who have to make their presentations. So let me have this opportunity to invite Elizabeth A. Koch from United States, who serves as the Senior Manager for International Program at the Environmental Law Institute. And she leads the Women in Water Diplomacy Networks process support team, supporting the network's development since inception. She has over 15 years of experience supporting water diplomacy engagement in conflict-sensitive basins on behalf of ELI, Seaweed Shared Water Partnership Program, the UNESCO Category 2 International Center for Water Cooperation, and EcoPeace Middle East. Elizabeth holds a Master's of Arts in Government, Diplomacy, and Strategy, and a BA in International Relations. Elizabeth, please, the floor is yours to make your presentation in 10 minutes.
Thank you, Dr. Florence, and all of the NBDF organizers for hosting this really great knowledge sharing experience. It's a hard act to follow all these amazing informative presentations so far. I also want to recognize that there are many members of the Women in Water Diplomacy Network online with us, so lots of experience also in the participants. Hopefully we'll get to some discussion. I'll try to be really brief. They're going to share the slides afterwards, so I'm not going to go through all my slides. I'm just going to focus on a few, and anyone is welcome to be in touch with me afterwards. I was asked in this presentation to speak specifically about youth engagement as part of water diplomacy processes and draw some experience from the Women in Water Diplomacy Network engagement activities and how we can best also utilize the experience of all of the knowledge around building inclusive processes to support gender equality, to also engage the next generation of water diplomats specifically. Okay, where is this? Okay. You can look at this slide more in detail in the presentation notes, but we're really talking here about water diplomacy. Many of the presenters noticed and elevated that women are not as well represented in water decision-making roles, specifically at the transboundary level. And that is a pervasive problem, not only, of course, in the Nile, but in many transboundary basins around the world. There are many types of actors that have an influencing role in water diplomacy. And in this presentation, we're really going to be looking at the role of youth. Of course, youth, it means different things to different people in different contexts and cultures, and we really need to pay attention to these differences as well. Different types of UN bodies relate to different categories of youth from 18 to 29 years old. Some agencies in the United Nations categorize all youth as 15 to 24. And in some cultures around the world, you're done being a young person at age 13 or 14, 18 in many societies. So there's really a lot of variations, and this affects what how we can talk about how to engage youth. Why this is so important for our discussions around water is, I think, really obvious to those of us on the call. Young people are a huge proportion of our societies, more and more. They are disproportionately a larger part of the society in lower income countries. And here we've highlighted a number of population density statistics in certain transboundary basins, so we can look at how this affects transboundary water relationships. You can zoom in on the Nile here and see that the population density of those in the youth category are significantly different in different countries in the Nile Basin alone. Young people are also playing a very important role in elevating the importance of climate action in countries across Africa and the world, including in the Nile Basin. These are just a few images, one from South Africa of a recent climate strike, as well as a panel from a recent Davos conference featuring Vanessa Nagate from Uganda and other leading climate young voices. Much like some of the barriers that you've heard elevated here, and I'm sure many of you have experienced in your own work, there are many barriers that are very persistent to excluding young voices from water diplomacy and transboundary water decision-making. We've heard already the resources are limited to engage in important dialogues. That is also very true for young people. Conflicts persist in many transboundary basins. This affects the ability to move and participate in dialogues. Political barriers sometimes restrict movement, such as the difficulties in getting visas in order to attend important meetings and dialogue spaces to be participating in decision-making. Languages and internet connectivity also persist. And there's also really, maybe I'm not quite sure how to characterize this yet, but disrespect between intergenerational disrespect, meaning that not all young people are perceived as important decision makers. And I think this can be also said with regards to our elders at times. So different communities might restrict the participation of a range of generational voices. And this is really a challenge for good decision-making, because as you've heard already, that if we don't have all of our voices represented in decision-makings, we're not going to make the best choices for our communities. This undermines sustainable development and cooperative management. Moreover, supporting young water experts to be part of these discussions, including both girls and boys, of course, it provides opportunity to bring in their experience and knowledge, gives us a more comprehensive understanding of what the challenges might be. And I really believe that it also enables policy continuity and the long-term success. If we're only focused on current decision makers and not involving the next generation, we're not preparing the next generation of water leaders to support and enhance those decisions. I'm going to skip past this a little bit, but please note there's strong synergies between the youth water peace and security agenda and the women peace and security agenda that are very much influencing water dialogues today. And I want to share a few examples of good practice before we have some time for discussion. First of all, there's this opportunity to build mentorship and intergenerational dialogue. Networks like the Women in Water Diplomacy Network and other examples you've heard from today put emphasis on building relationships between young leaders and their more experienced leaders from in a variety of different regions. That could mean that you have a mentorship program or simply participate in activities in partnership. There's the sense that like there's not enough room in a discussion for young people, and this is something that women have faced for generations. One approach to overcoming that is to simply expand the number of decision makers that are invited to participate in a dialogue. So we call that the building a bigger table approach. Of course, quotas have played a factor in involving women decision makers in water and other political policy decision-making forums, and those can be replicated to engage young people's voices as well. So we can require youth voices to be part of decision-making processes. It does not help to require them if they are not resourced to participate. So resourcing is a huge barrier to participation, both for women and young people, and an important one to address in any kind of program or policy process. I loved Fermina's presentation earlier. I think, and several others really showed us the value of sex disaggregated data with regards to policymaking. Likewise, all of us should be working hard to collect age disaggregated data in order to understand how policies and challenges affect different parts of our communities in different ways, including with regards to young people. Many of the approaches discussed today were mainstreaming approaches, and that is extremely important approaches. I also want to mention that it has been our experience that mainstreaming approaches are particularly effective when partnered or paired with targeted approaches, meaning policies and processes in a mainstreamed across organizations, but also where there are gaps, you must target elevating those particular communities. So the Women in Water Diplomacy Network, for example, is an example of targeting the elevation of women in the water diplomacy dialogue space. Likewise, there are some great examples of specific processes that are targeting youth involvement in the water sector. I think we saw that really nicely at the recent UN water conference here in New York, where we had a strong representation of youth ambassadors involved across the different dialogues. I also want to highlight that applying a justice lens to work in the water sector is one mechanism to reflect on the intergenerational impacts of water policy. What are the aggregative effects of a water policy on the next generation, and how can we work to ensure that the future is resourced as well as today? And finally, one other good practice example I'd like to highlight is it's often the case where we hear from this well-recognized leaders and experts on water or gender equality or any topic really in the water management sector. Those voices are, of course, really important to hear from. However, sometimes it's an effective approach for those recurrently invited representatives to take a step back, make space for other young professionals to have a voice at a table, elevating their new perspectives and making sure that more voices are heard. So we call this making space or stepping back to enable a diversity of voices. I think I will just highlight these two final resources. Both of these resources were published by the Stockholm International Water Institute. The first one, Making Waves, has a lot more details that would be of interest regarding youth engagement in these processes, but they really very much replicate and harness the extensive experience of approaches to gender inclusion in water diplomacy and transboundary water management. So I think it's really important for us to say, hey, not only have we a lot of challenges left to address in gender equality, we have important lessons to share with other communities that are seeking to enhance inclusion in a variety of different ways. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We can learn from those experiences, and we have a lot to share. So I would really encourage people to have a look at the resources identified in both of these short publications. I find them useful. And I really welcome any comments or questions in the future. And I'll share in the chat as well the Women in Water Diplomacy Network's global strategy, which includes also an annex on how to support youth in these processes. Thank you very much, Dr. Florence.
Okay. Hello? Yes, thank you very much, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Dr. Florence. I'm glad if we have any time for questions. I know that we're running late.
Dr. Florence, you are muted. Please unmute yourself.
Okay, sorry. So thank you very much, Elizabeth, bringing us the perspective of youth engagement and experience in water diplomacy network, and the need for us to involve the youth in decision-making as well at the earliest opportunity, because that is another way of smooth handing over this important management and governance of the water resources. So I think that is a very good, thank you for the references and publications, and also giving us the exposure on the various barriers that usually affect these initiatives towards empowerment of especially the disadvantaged, or those who are not being fully engaged in matters that concern life, like water. So I think this is very, very good. We are really running short of time. So I would like to, because we have very few, I think the participants, the listeners have listened for a long time, and I would like to open up for any question and answer session so that we can conclude in the next 10 minutes. So time is not on our side. We asked earlier on that you raise your hands electronically. If you have any question, you can also use our chat and the question and answer platform to provide questions and comments. And I know so many have already done that, but we want to hear the voice of those who are listening as well. And please make reference to any of the presenters on what you would want the presenters to ask. Floor is open.
Three participants, they raised their hand, Dr. Florence. Dereje, Chala, and Mohammed Salih.
Okay, Dereje, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you all the presenters. I do have one question for all. Gender equality or gender justice in the water sector is in very critical condition, as we know. We don't have more. We have experts, women experts, engineers, but we don't give them opportunity to participate in a higher decision or in the transboundary water governance issues. So I would like to ask, like, how can we engage male for gender equality? Because we are working on issues related to women or women's affairs. Gender equality seems like for most of us as the women's affairs or women's issue. So we need to transform the male champions to work toward this gender justice or gender equality. How can we engage the male champions in the NBI platform to facilitate effective water governance and management in the transboundary context? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Mohammed? There was another.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yes.
You hear me, Dr.
Yes.
Florence?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the presentations. One question goes to Dr. Adene. Impressive since the birth of this association is very recent, but it has done a lot. One of the milestones you were mentioning that they were 500,000 seedling in one day. Is that done only by this association, or it is a global or regional initiative? And is it just one day activity, or it is replicated and there is follow up for these seedlings to mitigate the climate change and deforestation issues? Another question for Elizabeth. What are you doing in order to remove the barriers for the youth participation, including those related to visas, barriers to entry or lack of finance? What could be done? What can be done? Then third question, mentioned by one of the presenters, that women are now speaking and they are having voice. And besides the slides, there was a digital for all. Are you linking also these women who has no digital literacy? They are digital or not generation of not digital era. How are you engaging them in order to increase their networking? Thank you.
Thank you very much for those questions. Any other question?
Okay.
Okay. Chala?
Mr. Chada.
Chada.
Yes, please.
It's very nice presentation, and they should be continued. And what's your aim or objective for the future to make the participation of women in the engagement of the water diplomacy? What will be the future in water participation of the women towards the countries or the member of the Nile Basin Initiative? This is my suggestion.
Okay. That is for Elizabeth, and maybe Dr. Adenach can also chip in. Is there another?
Yes, Davis.
Davis.
Yes, thank you so much for the opportunity. My name is Davis Wamba. My question is about women participation and gender. Could there be a mismatch, or are they interchangeably used when it comes to issues concerning women participation in development agenda? Because many times I've seen it when we talk about gender, it's much focused on women issues participation. I don't know. Maybe I need just clarification on that. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much, Davis. You will help us even to answer this question. Thank you very much. Any other hand raised? Okay. So,
Dian.
sorry?
Dian.
Yes.
Nilamana.
Please, in 1 minute, please make your question. You'll be the
Thank
last
you
because
so
of
much.
time.
Thank you so much, Dr. Florence, and all the presenters.
Okay.
But my
Chair
question
of
is very
the
close.
NBD. Okay.
Yes, thank you. My question just very brief. We still have challenge to engage with grassroots communities, especially most of the researchers document are coming from these foreigners' languages. And the resources are very limited to translate it in the local languages. If I may just say, in 10 countries, we speak a lot of languages. So how can we deal with all those issues so we can inform the grassroots communities to all the resources which are available in the different channels? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So the presenters, there are many questions. Some are specific to others, but they're the general questions as well for each of you. So let me start with Elizabeth. If you can make your contribution in the areas of the water diplomacy, engagements, and what we are going to do to remove the barriers, to enhance the youth, and what are the results that we expect in this water diplomacy, and these general questions which have been raised on the funding and also the issue of gender, how you understand it. Why is it always that when we talk of gender, then women are involved?
Well,
So, yeah.
Thank you. And those were wonderful questions from everyone. I'll try to address a few of them rather briefly. I think that in general, when we aim to have a conversation about gender equality and end up really focusing on women, that's largely because of the large disparities in equality that women have a much higher burden in many cases. So we want to focus on where the challenge is the greatest. That is not to say that there are not important conversations to be had around gender equality and men. Men can play, I think Davis, others asked this question, what can men do to support gender equality? Oh, there are so many things. You can take a pledge to not speak, for example, in an event that's only male voices. You can address hiring and recruitment practices in your own realm of influences. You can really focus on mentoring young women and women in your sphere. You can address male resistance when you see it in your organizations or lives. You can insist on conducting gender analysis or even digging deeper and doing gender budgeting wherever you can. So there are really just many roles where everyone can be a gender champion or gender equality champion in their sphere of influence. What we can do with regards to youth and this question that was raised around how, what we can specifically do to support young people and how do we address these resource gaps or the inability to get visas. From my experience, it just takes a lot of effort and support for young people. A lot of organizations that are committed to elevating youth voices can address the embassies early, seek support letters, and hosting of young people can make a big difference. We did this quite a large campaign around the UN Water Conference, for example. My organization, ELI, supported a number of young people to attend, but that took a lot of effort to get those visas. As you all know, the wait times for visas, particularly in many African countries, can be 8 months, a year, sometimes, really outrageous. So really making investment, being really proactive about that is an important way of getting more young people. Resources, we have seen a few development partners really focus on youth in the last couple of years. and provided scholarships to attend important dialogue meetings like the annual COP meetings, or the UN Water Conference, or the CWE's World Water Week events. So those are important opportunities. I think actually the last question regarding language is also really important too. Digital engagement and training is important, and sometimes those digital tools enable a lot more translation opportunities at a lower cost. So I really think there's a wealth of opportunities and ways of addressing. It really comes down to commitment, political commitment, the commitment of all of our organizations to really focus on inclusion, and both with regards to gender inclusion as well as youth participation, and really advocating for inclusion to be essential and not just like an add-on to a dialogue process. So thank you for all those wonderful questions. I put my email in the chat if anyone would like to continue the conversation by mail.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Dr. Danesh, you have some questions?
Okay. Yeah, some questions specifically for me. So the one is raised, the question from the Dr. Darajim. To increase the visibility or the participation of women at the different level in the water sector. So regarding to Ethiopia, what is our association is doing? The one is conducting assessment study, because the evidence is required. Based on that evidence, after doing assessment, we can try to convince the government and the different organizations. We are also conducting that one. The other is giving awareness. Even some educated women, they don't have information, they don't have even the knowledge about how can they become to leaders, how they become to join at the, for example, in the water diplomacy and so on. So we are helping them to become the member of this and part of this via our network and also capacity building. And so regarding to NBI, there is strategy and policy. That one is gender mainstreaming strategy and policy. So NBI is implementing this strategy because the 10 countries are part of this. That means the gender mainstreaming strategy is in the progress of the implementation, especially even the updated strategy of 2020 is available. So you can find that one from the website too. Regarding to the main champions, yeah, some members, because it's still not even formal awareness is required to support and to become part of this. What we are doing is inviting them to part of this, to understand this issue, and also to work with us and to support regarding to the gender mainstreaming, and to support for balancing of the women in the water sector and beyond. The other question is raised from the Mohammed, the seedling plantation. That one is not only by association members, because in Ethiopia there was a seedling per day 500,000. So our association member was the part of that, but they implement more than 100 seedlings. So they are part of that for watershed management, and also to contribute regarding to the watershed management. The other is in the future to see the women in water diplomats. So we are working, the one is we are conducting assessment, and also we are arranging different trainings. Most of the professionals, they are interested to capacitate our members, and that one will be expanding to the other regions, and we will see within short time many women, they become to the water diplomat at the different levels. So we are working in that, not only our association, even women in water diplomacy in the Nile, beyond, and the global, also working in this part, and also NBI also giving focuses. For example, the training conducting from intro side, Nile Sec side, also to balance the gender, mainstreaming, and also to balance the participation of gender from both gender, male and male, to capacitate and to train in the water diplomacy. negotiation and so on. The other is regarding to the language, yes, because the peoples, they don't know the international language, they have their own language, so communicating with them, maybe the document and also the platform or some softwares, apps created by English or other language, translating for them and supporting them by translating is required. We will also disseminate information with this manner. For meantime, we are using English and Amharic regarding to the association. In NBI, English and French is a common language, so we will do that one. So it's required to translate and to understand well within their own language. Thank you. I submit, Chair, Moderator.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Adenash. Any other presenter would want to contribute to any of these questions? Yeah,
thank you, Doctor.
Yes.
I think on the issue of male champion, I think we agree with the Dr. Lejo. We need to adapt the male champions because they are very key in promoting gender equality and women empowerment. Because here, when we talk of male champion, they are the ones who are in positions, who have power, and they can advocate for women empowerment. So it's good that out of this webinar, we need to adapt. And thank you for sharing that experience. And also, Femina hinted on it as a way forward that we need to adapt. On the issue of why we talk about women and interchangeably we refer to gender, this is because historically, women have been disadvantaged in terms of access to resources, as previous speakers mentioned, how they have limited access to resources. And also the studies that have been done has shown that there is a limited participation of women in water resource management. So that's why you find that when we talk of gender equality, we are looking at what could be the gender gaps or the gender issues, and some of these issues are related to women because they are more vulnerable and they are more disadvantaged historically, and we are trying to emphasize the empowerment as one of approach of achieving gender equality, and also issues of addressing the culture norms or social norms that limit their participation. So that sometimes that discussion on gender equality, issues of women comes in because of that historical background. And also, I think the issue of discussing grassroots women, and Dr. Nature touched it, and the issue of digital literacy. For Elizabeth, I think it's a good area that we need also to ensure how to strengthen the capacity of women in the digital era to be able even to participate in digital era. Thank you so much. I don't know if there is a colleague who would like to add so that we complete in time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Great. Any? If not, then let me take this.
Dr. Maha and Firmina, they raised their hand. Dr. Maha, Firmina.
Yes.
Doctor.
Yes, to address gender.
Please, 1 minute. In 1 minute, we are over time by 12 minutes.
To address gender equality, I think one of the things is to promote STEM, especially among young girls, so that the issue of women participating at high levels is addressed from the source. Where there are more women scientists, then there will be more women taking decisions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Dr. Maha?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you very much. This has been very eye-opening and very educative for me especially. But I was wondering, there are very good lessons. There are very good examples. How can we share these lessons, these examples, so as to educate ourselves and our colleagues on that? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Dr. Maha has posed the question, how can we share these lessons? Okay, I think one of the ways is to this women networking. and the experience. With the Nile, I think we need to be sharing a lot of experience from one country to another, but let the presenters, one of the presenters can respond to this concern of Dr. Maha. Elizabeth, do you want to try?
It'd be my pleasure. Wow, I'm really not a believer that there's any lack of capacity on these issues. I think you're correct, Dr. Maha. We have so much experience. It's really about giving opportunity to share that experience and think about how it can be adapted and adopted in different types of circumstances. So opportunities like the NBDF Webinar Series and other events where we have a chance to hear from experts from other regions and other situations and think about how we can apply are really important. Sharing publications, networking. I mean, one of the most significant advantages of networks like the Ethiopian Women Network that Adanish told us about, or the Women in Water Diplomacy Network, is really an opportunity to have relationships with other water experts in a variety of different basins that have some similarities to one's own local basin, and learn from them. So really sharing information, making transparent, publishing in open access publications, so that we can really have access to the knowledge that is out there already. And I have to say that sitting here in North America, you know, many times we've looked to basins in Africa or the global south where we say, those are water challenges that are happening there, over there. That's not the case anymore. Nowadays, many communities all around the world are experiencing dire water challenges, north, south, left, and right. We all need to be sharing this information because really these are challenges that all areas of the world are really addressing today, very unfortunately. So this knowledge sharing is even more important than ever, if you ask me, so that we can really address these really global challenges all together and draw on the diversity of experience. But I hope that a little bit answers your question, Dr. Maha. I'm sure you have a lot of experience to share too.
Okay, thank you very much, Elizabeth. And ladies and gentlemen, you know, it has been a very interesting session, but we must come to an end because of time. The NBDF has just given us opportunity as an opening eye. And I think from now onwards, we must continue with the networking. The issue of gender dimension in transboundary water management needs to be taken to a higher level, but starting from our own countries as well. That's what I bring out, I get. And the issue of gender is not just about female. I mean, from statistics, right from the first presenter, Caroline, it was very clear that there was a disparity and inclination on one side of the sex dominating in management and the governance in this area. And yet I think there's very good evidence that shows that women are more connected to the environment because of the nature of their work than men. It's another area to be discussed. Women are ever together communicating in the surrounding. But when it comes to decision making at certain levels, they are not given equal opportunity. I think this is why we are discussing. If statistics one time shows that there's disparity in a certain area, leaning towards the disadvantaging the men, then the imbalance should be corrected as well from the male perspective. But now, since we are all created male and female, it requires an inclusive participation of both so that we can protect our lives and protect the water that we all rely on. So I want to thank you very much, all participants, the presenters, those who are in the command center, our rapporteurs, and I want to say that we should have another maybe webinar. The NBI will continue the webinar to interact and share more information around this area so that we can do the empowerment of women, create inclusivity and supportive environment that encourages active participation of both male and female or women. So once again, thank you very much. And I enjoyed being your moderator. Next time we encourage more men to participate in this gender issue. It is about both of us. We are just correcting disparities. So I think we have common challenge. We need common solutions. And then we should be able to sustainably manage our resources for generations. Thank you very much, and I wish you a very good evening from Uganda. I don't know other sides, a good morning or a good afternoon for Elizabeth. Thank you very much.
Bye.
I return to the command center, please.
Thank you, Dr. Florence, for your nice moderation. Thank you, all participants and the moderators. Tomorrow morning also we have another event, another webinar. That one is focused in the TG2 legal and institutional framework for transboundary water governance in the morning. That will be start at 9 a.m. And also we have another webinar at 2 p.m. according to Nairobi time, East African time, the TG for the role of non-state actors in promoting transboundary water cooperation. Please join this webinar soon in the tomorrow morning and afternoon. Thank you for today, and I wish you good evening and also good day for Elizabeth and others from the USA and other continents. Thank you for your attention, for your time. Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.